Today I'm reviewing The Raven by Jonathan Janz. So this is a horror action post-apocalyptic story that I received from NetGalley in exchange for a fair review back in, I think, May or March of 2020. So this is an old review. I was going to repurpose it, but the quality was really bad because I had a different camera back then. So I figured I would just re-review it. And it was a really fun book, so it was nice to kind of revisit it. I'm not sure about you guys, but I don't generally consider the post-apocalyptic genre to be horror, but this book is definitely a post-apocalyptic horror. So what's The Raven about? So 2 years ago, rogue scientists released a biological weapon that unleashed tamped-down supernatural aspects in human DNA, turning people into vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural horror creatures. Des, the main character, is traveling the now post-apocalyptic landscape trying to find his kidnapped girlfriend. As someone with no powers, he has to rely on his survival skills and luck to survive. The novel starts out really strong, with a riveting first few chapters that kept me on the edge of my seat. Like, I was reading it at night on my tablet in the dark, and so that really, that helped, but I was basically the whole time being like, oh my god. So the rest of the novel follows at a slightly slower pace, but with plenty of action scenes. The introduction of new types of monsters was fun and oftentimes surprising. I love the revelation of the bad guy Keaton's power. That was really awesome. So this novel doesn't give you a lot of exposition, which I really enjoyed, in that, you'll come across a person and they'll change into a monster and you're like, oh, I didn't know there were werewolves in this book, that kind of thing. It's really fun. I also appreciated that the novel provides a simple, pseudoscientific explanation for the supernatural aspects of the story, but doesn't belabor it. The reason isn't really the purpose of the story, though I'm glad that they did give a bit of a reason. The action horror scenes are unapologetically violent, but it doesn't stray into the torture porn category, which is sometimes a hard balance to strike. I also appreciated that all the sexual violence, because as soon as I saw satyrs were one of the monsters, I got a little worried, but all of that was off screen, which I appreciated. Once I determined the novel wasn't going to trigger me, I found a thoroughly enjoyable action adventure in a dark, kind of no holds barred setting. It has a bit of a Western feel too. I had trouble putting it down, to be honest, and where Janz really excels is his twists and turns. One thing that didn't compel me about the book as much was Des himself. While there was an attempt to give him some depth, it was mainly by showing what he had lost in his life due to the horrors that are now, in the world. Some of his choices didn't really make sense to me. I'm not going to say what they are, obviously, because they'd be spoilers. In general, he felt like a generic kind of horror story protagonist, and his motivation to rescue his girlfriend wasn't very compelling, as we don't know or care about his girlfriend. His repeated laments about being unable to protect her, I found a little bit annoying. So there are some journal excerpts in the book from his journal. Perhaps if it had been her journal instead, we could have given her perspective and learned to care about her. And then, Dez's purpose in finding her would have been a bit more compelling. That just would have made more sense to me, because I was like, I don't care about your dead girlfriend or alive girlfriend. I don't know if she's dead. I don't really care. One thing for me, this might not bother everybody, but for me, there were no women in the novel until 30% of the way in, yet we do get an explanation as to why. So the women that do arrive are competent and have agency and both antagonists and allies. As such, I actually forgave the first part for being a bit of a sausage fest, which is something I don't usually do, but it actually made a lot of sense, and I was actually glad that, because the first third of the book is very violent, and I'm actually glad we didn't see any women destroyed, so that's maybe it was a good thing. Anyway, it's a thoroughly engrossing, gore-splattered romp through a horror monster-infested world that doesn't feel like every other vampire werewolf story. It breathes a new life into these old threats in a way that does compel me to read the next book. There are some interesting twists, some fun action scenes, and it's clear the novel is pointing out that the worst aspects of human nature aren't really what we turn into, but who we were to begin with. So, yeah. I will say that this is part of a series, so while the story does kind of wrap up in the end, it does leave it a little bit open-ended. I kind of wish I'd known that going in. I don't know why companies are doing that now, not telling you it's a series, but whatever. Just so you know. I really liked that Des has a Ruger for a gun, because that's my dog's name. I'm going to talk about one more thing, and it's a spoiler, so if you haven't read this book, I recommend it. I very much enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. So, I love that Keaton was a Minotaur. I adore Minotaurs. I don't know why, but they're like my favorite mythological creature. Like anything to do with Minotaurs, I really like. And I did not expect Keaton to turn into one. So that was a really, really fun twist that I absolutely adored. And that battle scene was so cool. If you've read this book, let me know in the comments if you agree. Obviously, blank out the word Minotaur so people aren't, spoiled. Yeah, let me know if you also liked that twist, because I was like just over the moon with that. So thanks.